Hello, hello everybody. Welcome to we're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to tell good stories. We're going to look at our stories. We're going to explore our stories, and most importantly, we're going to look at the relationship between the story you tell yourself and the world about who you are and how that story is impacting every area of your life. So, I am excited to spend the next 90 minutes with you. So, please just wherever you are, just take a minute and give yourself the gift of really just entering this space. Take this space as an opportunity, this time and this space as an opportunity for you to really connect deeply with yourself, with your higher wisdom, with the wisdom of your body, and let yourself really participate and enjoy and savor this little break that I hope will leave you with a deeper understanding of who you are, how you are, and most importantly, how the story you're telling about yourself is impacting and influencing your life. When we take back control over that story, we actually take back control over what we create with our life. So, if you would take a moment while we're just sort of all entering this space, take a moment and post in the chat just where you're from. So, just drop a quick note. Where are you attending from? Where are you listening from? So we can all be together and sort of get a good sense of where we are. So we've got Indiana, Boise, Arizona, Texas, Ohio, the UK, Florida, Utah, Germany. I'll be there next week. California, Texas, California, Georgia, Germany, Texas. Wow, it's like Georgia, Germany, Texas, Georgia, Germany, Texas, Canada, California, Missouri, Colorado, Utah, Texas, another Texas, Arkansas, South Africa, Massachusetts, Portland, Oregon, Wilshire, England, Chicago. Hi, Kathy. Cottonwood, Arizona, Chicagoland, Oregon, Austria, Jerusalem, Shalom, Charleston, Hampshire, UK, Utah, Dallas, awesome, Virginia. Welcome, welcome. I'm in Wisconsin, so where the weather is just starting to turn. So wherever you are, welcome. This is a space where we're all here together. So let's take a moment and let's enjoy being together in unity, which feels like a little bit of a foreign energy right now. So let's put aside anything that might make us think we're different, and let's find those common threads right now, and let's be here together. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different than how I normally operate a masterclass series. So this is going to be somewhat experiential. I'm going to invite you into some exercises today so that you can begin the process of really exploring what story are you telling about yourself, because sometimes we're not always clear about what story we're telling. And we're not clear until we experience a symptom in our lives where maybe the story is not working. We're going to be talking about a concept called quantum wellness. I'm so tempted. I didn't post this in the slides. I was so tempted to share with you all the picture that AI generated for me yesterday. I said, what would it look like if I was experiencing quantum wellness? And basically, I think they took Rambo's body and put my head on Rambo's body. It was hilarious. Anyway, if you haven't seen that picture, it's in our Facebook group. So we have a private Facebook space for all of our quantum human design community. If you would like a link to join that community, it's a great place to go to get good conversations, lots of great conversation starters. You can join us in our Facebook community, or you are also welcome, especially if you don't like Facebook. We have a private online space, a circle community that is a little bit wilder than our Facebook space. It's a little bit more free and a little bit more curated. We have control over that space exclusively. And it's a really sweet community space where also you can connect with other human design people. And we'll put the link to both of those spaces in the chat. So you can go there and join. And we are excited to welcome you in both of those spaces. All right, let's get started. I am so lucky to be really well supported by Team Quantum, and I'm going to just check and make sure, are the slides moving? Anna?
Yes, they are.
Yay! All right, awesome. So, if I have not had the privilege of meeting you yet, my name is Dr. Karen Parker. I am the founder and creator of Quantum Human Design and the Quantum Alignment System. I am a multiple best selling author. I'm the world's top selling human design author. I have a PhD in integrative medicine, and we're going to talk a little bit about my research that I did for my PhD today. I have been an emotional freedom technique practitioner. That is an energy psychology system. I've been an EFT practitioner since 2000. I was one of the very first life coaches trained in the world. I was trained in 1998 by Thomas Leonard. I studied with and worked for Ruhu, the founder of traditional human design. I have been teaching human design since 1999. I am a Quantum University guest lecturer. I am a TEDx presenter. You can find my TEDx talk on TED.com. I'm the host of the podcast Quantum Revolution, which I will be starting up again next year. We took a little bit of a sabbatical. I am an Omega Institute, Shift Network, and Humanities Team faculty member. And you'll see on the side some of my books that I've written, including my brand new book, Quantum Wellness, which came out in August. And some of the concepts that we're talking about today are going to actually come from my book, Quantum Wellness. There's a poet, Muriel Rykeiser. I'm probably saying her name wrong. But she has a line in one of her poems that just jumped out when I read it. And I was like, I love this so much because I feel this. I feel this so deeply in all of the work that I do. And in this poem, she wrote, "The universe is made of stories, not atoms." And I think when we start thinking of our lives and start thinking of the world through the lens of everything that's showing up in our life is a story. Literally, it's a story. And really, when we start to analyze the stories that we're telling, our stories are pretty basic. We have variations on the stories. We have all kinds of themes that we expound upon, but pretty much every story we tell ourselves and the world about who we are and how we are can be drilled down into a polarized narrative, a this or that kind of a story. And oftentimes that story, in some way, shape, or form, takes place in the narrative of victim and victimizer. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow sometimes because it's a pill that leaves us feeling very disempowered. And oftentimes, though, when we really start to take our stories apart, the stories that we have about money, the stories that we have about our relationships, the stories that we tell about work and career and purpose and fulfillment, the stories we tell about our bodies, the stories we even tell about our spiritual connection, if we really drill down a little bit, what we oftentimes find is that at the bottom of the story we're telling, this big convoluted thing that we're talking about, is a very basic narrative that says somehow I perceive myself as being a victim of something. Sit with that for a minute. The second thing that I want to say is that oftentimes in the stories that we tell about ourselves, we end the story in the middle. We end the story at the climax of the story when things fall apart, right? Every story, if we follow the traditional arc of a story, we start off in the beginning of a story. We're the hero in the story, right? But in the beginning, we're not the hero. In the beginning, we're kind of struggling. We are, sometimes things are not so great. They're sort of falling apart. We're not getting it right. People don't like us, right? And then our hero goes on some kind of cataclysmic adventure, right? And in that adventure, the rug often gets pulled out from under your feet, or something happens that forces you to have to get eyeball to eyeball with yourself in the mirror and really mature your character, right? You have to grow up. You have to acknowledge and find your gifts. You have to cultivate your gifts. You have to find a way to hold those parts of yourself that maybe seem at odds with yourself, and you emerge ultimately as this wise being, this hero, right, at the end of the story that goes through this redemption arc and goes back out into the world really ready to give something more. But again, what happens for a lot of us is we end the story at the climax. We end the story at the place where the rug got pulled out from under our feet. we end the story. And then if we live, we define ourselves as survivors, right? We got through the halfway through the chapter, we survive, and then we stop the story. And we don't talk about what happened next. What happened next in that narrative where we reclaimed who we are, where the magic unfolded. You know, I think about this a lot in the context of my divorce. When I got divorced, oh man, I stopped my story in a really dark place. You know, I was definitely deep for about 10 years in a victim story. And it was a victim story that showed up in every area of my life, including my relationships, including in my money. It showed up in my body as breast cancer. It was a victim story that manifested in every layer of my life. And if I had stopped my story there, if I had stopped my story at the bitterness, at the anger, if I had stopped my story at the cancer, I would be a survivor for sure. But I am so much more than a survivor. My life went on eventually. And again, I'm not saying you should instantly, if you experience a trauma, recover and rewrite your story and move on. That's bypassing. But I'm saying we cannot afford to get ourselves stuck in a narrative that holds us back and keeps us in the middle of the climatic part of the story and not recognize where's the redemption arc. The reality of it is, if I hadn't gone through the divorce, I never would have discovered, I wouldn't be here today doing this work. I would not have built what I built with my business. I would not have discovered my voice. I would not have found the drive and the passion to follow my purpose. I would never have met my second husband. I would never have had my fifth baby, my little projector who is now 16. There's so many amazing things that happened to me because of the fertile soil that was created from the destruction of my marriage. I also say, I want to just be really clear, I consider my first husband to be a dear friend of mine. We have since come a long way in mending the things that broke between us. And that would not have also happened if I had stopped in the middle of the story. How many times in our story do we stop our story and identify with the climax, the loss, the disruption? And we define ourselves as survivors, which is okay. That means, hey, I lived, right? But we don't let ourselves grow into and steer what's next. We stop at the middle instead of letting ourselves tell the rest of the story, which is the redemption arc, where we grow, where we learn, where we become more than what we were before. So we're going to start today with an exercise. And some of you may have done this with me before. This is something I've done with people for decades now, and it's always, to me, one of the most fascinating things to do with people. If you have done it before, I want you to answer it present time. How do you eat dinner? I want you to really stop for just a moment, and I'm going to get out of here for a minute, and I want you to think about, and if you want to, you can write it in the chat, write down or write it for yourself or think about it for yourself. How do you eat dinner? And I'm not asking like, what diet do you eat? I don't care if you're carnivore or vegan or whatever. I'm not asking about what food. I'm saying, how do you eat dinner? So Jenny writes, I serve everyone first, on a tray watching TV, in front of the TV, right? Alone. I fast, right? I want you to just take a minute and think about it. With my family, mindfully, usually standing in my kitchen multitasking, on my front porch. That's a good one. I like that. On the couch. Okay. Let's think about what is the story of dinner for a moment. Let's think about what is the story of dinner. Dinner, metaphorically and literally, is a time in the day when we pause, we stop. We come to the completion of the day, and it is the time of the day when we are nourishing ourselves. We are nourishing ourselves to prepare ourselves for the long fast that is sleeping, right? Nighttime. We are bringing nutrition into the body, right? We're bringing in vitamins, fiber, protein, all the good stuff. We're bringing it into the body. We're also, hopefully, also nourishing ourselves socially, right? We are sitting down together. If you're living with other people in your home, where we're gathering together and we're connecting. How many times when we eat dinner are we not being mindful of the sacredness of being receptive, because dinner is receptive after you cook it, right? Being receptive to receiving, allowing the nurturing that is dinner, allowing the nurturing that is sitting down and being in community with your beloveds, right? Think about that for a minute. How many times do we not set the table? Set the table, setting the stage, which is such, again, metaphorically, if we talk about manifesting, setting the stage and creating the matrix from which we manifest is huge. If we're not setting the table metaphorically for ourselves for a beautiful meal, think about what that says about our readiness to receive, our readiness to create. We have beautiful, I mean, I don't know how it's for you. I have so much beautiful china. Like my both my mother and my grandmother were are my mother is still with us, but my grandmother's passed a while ago. Like they love fine china. My mom has so many sets of fine china, and I have a lot of my grandmother's china, right? China, silver, like the kind of silver that you have to polish. Oh my God, that's like a time bender's nightmare, right? How many times though do we not set a beautiful table? Do we just grab something and go? Or we eat off of paper plates? You know, I don't know if we do that still, right? Think about dinner being a metaphor, a story for your receptivity for all the goodness and the nutrients and the richness and the support that you deserve. How you do anything is how you do everything. The basic core stories of who you are is translating itself into every layer of your life. It's translating yourself into how you act, how you think, what you create. It's translating into your money. It's translating into your relationships. It's translating into your body. It's translating into your work. It's even translating into your spiritual relationship. How willing are you to believe that you deserve to be supported by unseen loving forces? If you don't know the answer to that, ask yourself how you're eating dinner, because how you're eating dinner is going to correlate to your willingness to allow yourself to be supported by the universe. So this is not intended to make you feel bad or terrible. This is intended to give you the self-awareness. And here's the really cool thing. So many times I think when we learn about things like manifesting, we're taught, you know, your mind creates your world, right? Your thoughts create your reality. And trying to control this thing inside the skull is really tricky. It's really tricky because this brain of yours is an incredibly efficient organ. It is designed to operate with patterns and to do things repetitively and rotely without a whole lot of thought. And when we try to tackle this and change this, you can and you will. And we're going to talk a little bit today about some ways to do that. But you don't only change it in here, you can change it out here too. And so if you looked at how you eat dinner and you're like, wow, I could probably make some changes in how I eat dinner. First of all, I want to acknowledge you. If you had that epiphany, I want to acknowledge you. That's a really good place of self-awareness, right? And if you want to change it, change it. If you don't have a table, buy a table. If you're not setting the table, set the table. If you're not cooking a good meal, you don't have to cook it, but make sure that you're being well nourished, right? Make sure you're making dinner a metaphorical ritual for yourself every day so that you can sit down at the table every day and say, I am worthy of receiving all the nutrition and nourishment and support and love that I deserve. And I deserve a heck ton lot. I don't know if that's a real way to say that, but you deserve a lot, right? And so I want you to start turning your life, your dinner practice into a ritual where every evening you are embodying your worthiness and you are setting the table for receiving everything that you deserve to receive, all the goodness that you deserve to receive. So take that as your first sort of homework assignment tonight, to start turning your dinner into a ritual act of receptivity and allowing. Now we're going to give you a little handout, and it's going to have a body on it like this. And I want you to just take a moment, and I'll give you a minute or two. I'll give you a minute. And I want you to draw on this body anything that either is hurting you right now, that maybe isn't working the way you'd like it to work, any part of your body that is feeling problematic, any major illnesses or chronic illnesses or any kind of injuries that you may have had. I want you just to put a little X on the body, on the little image of the body. And the image, the handout that we gave you, it's PDF fillable. So you, right, is that right? Am I saying that? Is that right, Hannah? Is it?
It's just a diagram. So even
It's
if
just a
they don't,
diagram. So you might have to write it down. But write it down, put it down, like what is going on with your body? What is going on with your body? So I'll give you a minute to do that. Yes, yes, Kimberly, put an X wherever there might be any issues with your body. Things not working optimally. Okay, good. And you can work on this while I finish teaching. At the end of our presentation today, I'm going to bring us back to that diagram. And after you listen to everything that I have to say, and at the very end, I'm going to show you the relationship between the parts of your body and core archetypal issues or parts of your story. So there's a relationship between what's hurting in your body or what's not feeling great in your body and the story that you're telling. So in the end of this call, I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you some slides about what your body might be telling you. And I want you to, at the end, also bring that back around to dinner and think about, is what's going on at dinner or not going on at dinner showing up in your body? Okay, showing up in your body. Because the odds are likely that it is. And if it's not showing up in your body, it might be showing up in your money or your relationships or any other area of your life that feels like it's not working. Oftentimes, when our body starts showing symptoms when it's not working optimally, it's the last part of the story that we manifest. So if you've got questions about body parts and stuff, we'll do our best to get them answered. If it's all of your body, a couple of you said, like, what is all of the body? What if it's all the body? If it's all of the body, like if it's blood cells, try to get back associated with what system in the body it's associated with. So blood cells is obviously circulatory system. Okay, if your body hurts all over and it's bones and arthritis, then that's your structural, your skeletal system. All right, so let's try to get it back into, try to associate whatever part is the body that is bothering you with a system, because sometimes looking at what system is this part of can help. All right, so let's talk about quantum wellness. Like I said yesterday, when I went to Chat GPT and I was like, make me a picture of myself experiencing quantum wellness, they took my head and stuck it on Rambo's body. And that was their physical, visual definition of quantum wellness. And so many times when we talk about quantum wellness, we think we're talking about the body, right? Taking your vitamins and working out and eating healthy. And certainly that's part of it, but that is actually not what quantum wellness really is. So let's start with breaking down a couple of vocabulary terms or define a couple of terms that we're going to be using today. First term I want to break down for you is the term manifesting, because it's a term we use a lot, and you'll hear me use it a lot. And I want to be clear that when I'm saying manifesting, I'm talking about the sacred alchemy of nurturing potential until it becomes visible in form. Okay, so it's nurturing potential until it becomes visible in form. So that means anytime you have a dream, an idea, anytime you have a talent, anytime we're nurturing these ideas, these dreams, our talents, until they become in form, right? Till they become tangible, physical parts of our world. That process of cultivating our skills, our talents, our dreams, our potentials, that cultivation is the process of manifesting. Quantum wellness is also part of manifesting. It is the practice of aligning your mind, body, and spirit with that alchemy, with manifesting, right? Cultivating the stories, the energy, the habits that support your creative power so that whatever you're calling into being, whatever you're manifesting, not only takes on form, but here's the second part, and this is important. It also sustains your vitality, joy, and wholeness. We can create things, or, we can use our willpower to create things, but are the things that we're creating in our life, the experiences, the connection, the physical things, are they also sustaining our vitality, our joy, and our wholeness? So when I teach manifesting, these are 6 very basic steps to manifesting that I teach. I am not going to teach them today, but I just want to outline them briefly for you. We always start with getting clear. What do you want, right? That's a really important part of the manifesting process. You have to know what you want. The second step in manifesting is calming and unifying all the parts of your nervous system, meaning manifesting involves moving out of a stress response, fight or flight, into a state of coherence, which is a highly creative state. It's a highly coherent state within the body where all the different parts of your nervous system are functioning in a unified way. The reason why this is such an important part of manifesting is that this unlocks a really powerful creative state, not only in the heart, but in the brain. It makes us rethink things in a creative way. The third part of manifesting is putting it into words. What makes us so unique as human beings, as divine animal creatures, is that we have the ability to translate divine inspiration, that spark, that inspiration that drops in when we're in the shower. We have the ability to turn it into words. And words in the language that we use actually hold a frequency of energy, right? We use high quality language. We actually can increase our vibrational state. We bring the body into a state of coherence with good words, with good high quality words. And words really create the energetic infrastructure for what we manifest. So it's not just the words that are important, it's choosing intentionally high quality, high caliber language to formulate an intention. That's a different way of telling a story. And using the energy of those words to set in motion the creative process. Now, once we do that, then the fourth part of manifesting is letting go, is releasing it out into the world and then seeing what shows up in response to that intention, that prayer, if you want to call it that too. The fifth part of the creation process is activating compassion. We actually see this lives in the G center. And this is about staying in the flow of giving and receiving, and most importantly, not blaming other people and not blaming yourself. Getting out of that victim story and standing in a much more empowered place. And operating and creating that story from a deep sense of your lovability and your self-worth. Because to be compassionate with yourself, you have to know your value and you have to love yourself. And those are 2 highly important energies in the creative process. And then you have to do it regularly. We need repetition in this process. This is something you really should be doing if you're trying to manifest, to do at least on a regular basis. Most importantly, not because the universe needs you to repeat it, because the universe doesn't need you to repeat it, but your brain needs you to repeat it because, as I said, the brain is a highly effective, efficient organ, and it needs that repetition to build a pathway, to build a neural pathway through your brain and ultimately into your body so that you are programming yourself literally neurobiologically to be in alignment with embodying the identity of the person you need to be to create whatever it is that you're creating. That's all I'm going to talk about in the context of the formula for manifesting as a whole nother class, right? Here's what I talk about today. We talk a lot about the ends justifying the means, right? That's not true. It can be true, but not always true. But it is universally true that the sustainability of the end, whatever it is you're creating, the sustainability of the end is dependent on the integrity of the means. Meaning, if you want to get out of boom and bust cycles of creating, if you want to get into a state of vitality that is consistent and accessible, if you want to create goodness in your life that is enduring and sustainable, the only way to get there is to create from a state of wholeness, to create from a place where you are in integrity. And when I'm talking about integrity, I'm not talking about moral integrity, although that can be part of it. I'm talking about being in integrity structurally, like when we say a bridge is in integrity, right? Well, you are structurally in integrity with your authentic self. Because if you're trying to create something you don't really want, or if you're trying to create what I call band-aid solutions, this is what we do oftentimes with money, right? Well, if I just had $10,000, I could just go do the thing over here that I really want to do. What if you skip the $10,000 piece and just go straight for the thing you really want to do? You don't have to figure out the how, right? But when we start going for that thing that is the band-aid solution, or we're trying to create something we don't really want, but we think we should want, or we've been told we should want, or society says we need to have, when we go for that, and it's not really what we want, and it's not in alignment with who we are, so we think, well, I'll just do this, and then later I'll do the thing I want to do. Whatever we end up creating from the compromise doesn't last. And it actually keeps us trapped and stuck, which is why the integrity of the means, how you create what you want, is so important. Because when we are creating in integrity with our authentic self, then the end that we manifest, that thing we're creating, becomes sustainable. It also is a heck of a lot more fun, joyful, interesting, fulfilling, satisfying, and worthy of who we are, right? So if we think of the creative process, and we're going to break this down a little bit, we think of the creative process as, at this moment, right now in this moment, you're sitting in a field, the quantum field of infinite possibility. So right now, take a second for just a minute, because when we really dial into this, I find this to be really mind-blowing. It's very simple, but very mind-blowing. As you stand here right now listening to this, you are in a sea, an ocean of moving quantum particles that hold the potential, an infinite number of potentials, for just about anything in your life that you could possibly want or not want. Literally, all those things you've been dreaming about, thinking about, hoping for, wanting, that stuff exists. Literally, it exists. It's just not manifest. It's moving on the quantum level. If you put your hands on your desk or your phone or whatever it is that you're listening to this program with, if you pay attention to your current space, your current reality, that's your life right now. That is just simply a sequence of manifested potentials. That's all that is. It's just a series of manifested potentials. You're sitting in manifested potentials. Now, what has determined of all these infinite possibilities that you are swimming in right now, what has determined the potentials that you have manifested in your life? Well, your story. And that story, by the way, includes your human design. Okay, so you have a story. You have a story that kind of serves as a filter. And that story has been filtering through all these non-manifest options and picking the options that match the story you're telling. So let's break this down a little bit differently. First of all, let's just start with part of the story of who we are lives in the G center and the will center. If we look at the energies that are associated, the archetypal themes associated with the G center and the will center, two very important archetypal themes that live here are your lovability, that's the G center, and your self-worth, that's the will center. Everything you're creating in your life is being funneled through, am I worthy of love? Can I be loved? Am I loved? Am I valuable? Do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? These are two incredibly important parts of your story that are regulating what choice are you making out of that infinite field of possibility and manifesting in your life. And at the risk of being a little bit provocative here, I'm going to challenge you and say that you probably deserve more. You probably deserve more, and that's okay. Sometimes when we start to allow that, we feel shame around it. You have nothing to be ashamed about for deserving more. We all deserve more. And the more we allow, the more we have to help others deserve more too. So there's no shame in deserving more. And there's no shame in opening up our story to allowing more, because that more, especially when we do it in a way that's in alignment with who we really are, allowing that more, whatever that more is, sustains you. That also will start sustaining the people you love. It'll also start sustaining your community and ultimately the world. The more we have when we're operating from a healthy sense of value, we'll call it ego. When you're operating from a healthy sense of ego, the more you have, the more you have to share. And right now, I personally believe that one of the most important things we must do is to allow ourselves to have more so that we have more to give in a sustainable way. In a sustainable way. This isn't martyrdom. Right? So, not coincidentally, self-worth and lovability is deeply tied to the G center and the will center, and also deeply tied to your identity, which is tied to the story you tell about who you are and how you are. So one of the things we have to do if we want to tap into quantum wellness is we have to answer the question, who are you? And who do you need to be in order to create the reality you want to be living in? That's a really, really important question. And certainly one that I want to encourage you to tap into. Like when we hang up today, really play with this question. Who do you have to be the person who creates what you really want for your life? Who is the person that you have to become? And how do you need to change your story so that that story that you tell about who you are and how you are becomes the infrastructure for who you grow into becoming? Okay, so, all right, let's talk about, I'm going to break this down for you just a little bit more. We're going to talk about basic quantum creativity. I just broke it down for you. I want to break it down for you again, just because I really want you to see this. Right now, in this moment, you are standing in a field of unmanifest reality, the quantum field. So all those zipping, zooming, moving quantum particles that are not yet manifest, but that you are sitting squarely in, that's a field of information, field of potential. It's not manifest yet. The second part of your creative process or creative basic quantum creativity is what's called the mental and the emotional body. You, as part of your story right now, are holding on to memories, ancestral memories, your own memories, memories of your lived experiences, emotional artifacts, energetic artifacts, imprinting from your family and from society. Everything that has made you form the story that you are telling right now about who you are and how you are is held in this mental and emotional body. This is kind of like a filter, right? You have this filter that is that holds all the things that make you you. Where you hold your conditioning is what we say in human design. Now that filter is creating an energetic template. That's your aura. And that energetic template is either holding in place what you're about to create, or it's kind of holding space for what you're in the process of discreating. That energy field, if you work with a healer, with an energy healer, or if you work with somebody who does Reiki, or you work with even flower essences and other kinds of energy modalities, you're working on the subtle body level. You're clearing the energy template so you can call in what you really want and you can release what you really don't want. I'm only putting this here because sometimes when we talk about manifesting, we ignore this layer of the self. And sometimes, especially if you have a trauma pattern that's really stuck, working on the energetic level is sort of like adding a poultice to the changes that you made and it help stabilize the changes. So I'm actually a really big fan of working with flower essences as part of the creative process and certainly part of activating quantum wellness. The final part of the creative equation is your manifested reality, your life right now, And again, back to this image that you've seen here, your life right now is the result of what lives in that mental, emotional body, in that subtle body, your conditioning. What has made you, what has helped you tell the story that you are telling about who you are and how you are? Where did that story come from? What is that story saying? And sometimes we don't know what the story is saying until we start looking at things like dinner or the body or our money or our relationships, right? Sometimes we need that outer evidence to reflect back to us what is in our story, because sometimes we don't know what's in our story. Sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes we've drowned it out because it's painful, and we need to look at it. We have to take back control over it if we're going to shift what we're experiencing in our lives right now. So your story is basically a collection of meanings about archetypes, right? So if I say the word money, you all know what money is. Money is not really anything except an exchange of value, right? It's something we use as a way of measuring value, and we use as a way of exchanging value. Money itself has become really odd, right? As in this time and age for us. I mean, I don't think I ever touch money anymore. It's all numbers on a screen, right? We have meanings about money. If I say the word money, it's going to trigger meanings in your mind. You're going to either be thinking, yeah, I love money. It's awesome. It's so cool. It's great. I love it. Bring me more. Or you might have meanings that are maybe not so great about money. Like, why is it so hard? And it's evil. I just did a whole storytelling process with a group of 10th graders a couple of weeks ago. And I asked them for their meanings about money. Oh my gosh, they hated money. Like, there wasn't a single kid in that room that had a healthy set of meanings around money, which I thought was interesting, right? So money is neutral. The money by itself is just an exchange of value. It's a way of measuring value. It has no emotional meaning, right? Until we give it meaning. And the meaning that we give it is part of our story. And ultimately, it's part of what's creating our experience of money or value in the world. One of the biggest challenges that we have when we start saying, okay, your thoughts create your reality. Awesome, great. How do I know what I'm thinking? How do I control what I'm thinking? Where do I start tackling my thinking? That's a hard question. When we start looking at tackling the story that we're telling, we really need to have a systematic approach to start disassembling that story so that we can begin to analyze, what's the story that I'm telling? What meanings have I given core archetypes in the human experience? And how do I rewrite that story so that I can use my story to create something better? This is what I love about human design, because human design gives us a systematic way to start analyzing, what story am I telling? If I am the me creating my reality and I don't like it and I want something different, how do I start going about changing the story that I'm telling? Well, human design gives us a very systematic approach to tackling that story. What human design shows us is that we are happiest and most abundant, and I believe most magical in our current awareness when we are creating in alignment. That's the means, everybody, right? When we are creating it with those integrity means, in alignment with the highest expression of the archetypes that comprise the authentic self and our energy blueprint, our human design, right? So why is human design such a good tool to help us explore the story we're telling? Why does it give us a systematic approach to rewriting our story? Well, let's break that down. So human design is a synthesis of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, Judaic Kabbalah, and quantum physics. So what do all of these systems have in common? Well, every one of these systems, ancient and modern, is basically comprised of archetypes, right? And an archetype is just an idea, a symbol, a pattern, or a character type in a story. Money is really kind of an archetype, right? It's just an idea or a symbol in the human story, right? Archetypes are just parts of the story. And you have, at the moment of your birth, an imprinting of a soul curriculum. That's really what your chart is, a soul curriculum that's going to give you an idea of what parts of your story are going to play up front and center on the main stage of the story of your life as it's playing out. So we're each living our own personal story that's comprised of all of the archetypes in the human design chart. Oh my God, you guys, that's a lot of archetypes, right? So if you took this is actually my chart. If I took all of the archetypes in my chart, type, profile lines, centers, the gates, the circuits, and I wrote down, and this is a word cloud I did. I wrote down the highest expression of all of those archetypes and made a little word cloud. These are the archetypes in my chart. This is my soul curriculum. This is my goal, right? I want to get to where I'm living out all of these energies in the highest way possible. But again, that's a goal. That's living out the quantum expression. The thing about archetypes is that archetypes are neutral. They're neutral. Money is neutral until we give it meaning, right? The parts of our human story are neutral until we give them meaning, which is one of the tricky lines that we walk with human design and even teaching human design. Because it's very tempting when we teach human design to use it as a labeling system, right? You are a this. Well, a labeling system is static. It's flat. It has one fixed meaning. And oftentimes when we learn human design that way, we walk away with these fixed meanings about ourselves that don't allow ourselves to evolve and experience the full spectrum of the archetypes in the story. An archetype is never static. It's always dynamic, and it shows up on a spectrum. It shows up on a spectrum. So let me show you this. If you think about this diamond, right? If you think about this diamond, and this diamond represents an archetype. So let's say this is money, right? This is the archetype of money. When we have a fixed static meaning about money, it shows up right here. But there's all these other meanings that we could be living from and creating from around the word money, right? If our idea of money, if our story about money, the label we use about our financial story is over here, and it's like money is hard, money is power, and I don't have any power, and money is unfair, and it's inequitable, and we have those kinds of meanings around money, and that's where we live. It becomes really static. We get fixed in that. There's like all these other potential meanings for money that we don't even get to experience in that quantum field, right? Same is true in human design, right? If I identify as, I'll pick on my projectors because I feel like you guys get a bum deal sometimes in the human design story, and I say, you're a projector and you're over here, and that means you can't do anything unless somebody invites you. So don't say anything. Don't offer up any insights. Just sit there quietly until somebody asks you. And if they don't ask you, well, that's life, right? And you need to wait for an invitation for every single thing in your life. That's me being dramatic because I'm a Leo, but sometimes that's the story we give projectors. Well, that's one little tiny piece of what the projector is. That's one very static label. The projector is a lot more, right? If you're a projector, you're also wise. You know things. You were born knowing things. You are not necessarily always supposed to be quiet. There are ways for you to interject your knowledge and your wisdom. You have an obligation, I believe, sometimes to interject your knowledge and your wisdom, even if people don't listen to you, because sometimes you know things that we really need to know. And if somebody doesn't say it, we're all going to pretend like we're not seeing it, and boop, we're all going to fall off the cliff, right? You are not here to sit here passively twiddling your thumbs. You're supposed to be exploring what you love and what stirs your passions while you're waiting. You are here to redefine the world of work and the world of energy, and you're here to hold the whole darn thing together energetically because you're tending to the grid, the template of the potential for the future of the world. Okay, let's talk about this dynamic way of exploring human design. And that means we have to understand that all of these parts of the chart are not static. They're dynamic, and we have choice over how, oops, hold on. We have choice over how we choose. Something is not right. Hold on a second. I need a projector to help me fix my screen here. Okay, there we go. We have choice over how we experience these parts of our chart. But we're oftentimes not told that we have choice over it. Okay, but you do. And I'm telling you, you do. We create optimal wellness when we create in alignment with the highest potential of the archetypes in your chart, not the lowest. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have crappy days. It doesn't mean you're not going to have days when you're not, when you're angry or frustrated and angry or bitter or disappointed. You are going to have those days because that's part of the growth arc. That's part of how we transform. That's part of our awareness. But that's not who you are. That's how you are today or in a season. But you ultimately, by understanding yourself and taking back control over the story, you can engineer and become the architect of implementing the blueprint that is your chart. So if your quantum human design chart is the energy blueprint, you are the architect that optimizes what you construct using the blueprint. That's what choice is about. That's the power that storytelling gives us. So if our story is our point of creation, then we can take back control over that story. And actually, we know now from a beginning emerging field in science called narrative psychology that when we do take back control over the story we tell about who we are and how we actually can change our bodies. We can change our wellness. We can change what we create. So we know from science, just a summary of some current science research, that when we tell better stories, new stories about who we are and how we are, that we can actually change genetic programming and we can heal our ancestral lineage, especially if we take ourselves out of the realm of victim stories. We know that when we tell better stories about who we are and how we are, we can increase our immune response. That is what I did with my research study, which I'll share with you in just a minute. We know that if we start looking at our lives through the lens of the hero's journey, which is a storytelling template, where now all of a sudden everything that doesn't work out is part of the adventure and something for us to learn from with curiosity instead of a defeat, that we can actually give ourselves a sense of meaning. We can add a sense of meaning to our life. We become more resilient and better able to navigate disruption. We know that storytelling, intentional storytelling, can actually decrease our PTSD response. And as I said, if we look at our narrative through the lens of the hero's journey, it also makes us more resilient and better able to practice equanimity, which means you're better able to stand in the middle of the disruption of life and hold center and hold center. So in the research that I did for my PhD, I actually went back and looked at a study that I had read about in the early 2000s that fascinated me. And in this study, this was a study that was done at Harvard, they had people come into the lab who had stories about an event that left them feeling disempowered and angry. And they had people tell the story. They did a blood study before. They actually did saliva. They used saliva. They measured the levels of immunoglobulin A in these research studies of these people before they told the story. And then they had people tell the story of what happened to them that made them angry and feel disempowered. And then after they told the story, they went back and measured their immunoglobulin A levels again. And in this research study, they found that when they told the story, this story that made them angry and feel disempowered, their IgA levels dropped. So their immune system went down in response to feeling angry and disempowered, or telling a story that created anger and disempowerment. So memories that were disempowering and made them feel angry caused IgA levels to drop. And I wanted to test, okay, what happens next, right? After you tell the story, because we're always telling stories about stuff that happened that we didn't like and that makes us mad or that were disempowering, right? That's what we do when we go out together. We tell bad stories about our lives, right? I wanted to investigate if we had them rewrite the story from a different perspective, would that cause IgA levels to go back up? So, in the experiment that I did, I had 50 subjects. I measured their baseline saliva IgA levels. I had them tell me a story of an event or a memory that made them feel devalued or disempowered. I then reassessed the saliva IgA levels and I found a significant decrease in the IgA response. Now, if we're chronically stuck in negative stories, here's how that impacts the body. We live in a chronic state of low IgA, which leads us to having frequent infections, including sinus infections, lung infections, digestive issues, allergies, digestive, and even autoimmune problems like celiac disease and lupus. So I have a theory, I have no proof right now, but a theory that a lot of our ongoing chronic diseases that we experience may be part and parcel a result of feeling disempowered on a chronic level in our lives. Something to think about. In part 2 of my experiment, I had them write a new story. So I had them take this event, this memory, I had them rewrite it, literally, like sit down like a creative writing process. I had them rewrite the story in such a way that rather than emerging from the story as a victim, which is where they were, that they instead wrote the story in such a way that they either learned something important that helped them heal their self-worth, or where they emerged from the story as the victor, not the victim. Now, when I had them do this process, this was a very creative process. They could call in fantasy creatures, they could cultivate superpowers. It didn't matter what they did to become the victor. It didn't matter what they did to learn this new lesson. It didn't matter what they did to heal their self-worth. That part was up to them. That's where the creativity kicked in. They got to play with glitter and all kinds of fun things. But the process of rewriting that story was very beautiful. It was fun to watch. You could literally see people shift and change in the lab. After they read me the story that they wrote, I went back and I reassessed their IgA levels, and I found that after rewriting the story from a different perspective, they experienced a significant rise and or a return to baseline in 65% of my subjects. Now, here's the cool part about human design. Human design, as I said, when we try to rewrite our stories, there's so many things we could be rewriting. You could spend the rest of your life just rewriting your stories of your life, right? The beautiful part about human design is it gives us a systematic way to break down our story, to really analyze the narrative that we're telling about who we are and how we are. It gives us a very clear goal for what we want to create with the story, where we want to end up at the end of the story. And it teaches us how all the different parts of the chart play into the storytelling process. So your type, your human design type, is the main character in your story, right? So when we start looking at your story, your narrative, and you start looking at, well, who am I? Who's the main character in my story? That's your type. Your type has a profile. The profile lines represent characteristics and qualities of your main character. They help you understand what does your main character need to learn? What is your main character here to teach and give the world? What does your main character need to feel grounded and stable? There's a healing path outlined in your chart, and that healing path is, what do you need to do? What does your main character need to do to get back into your body? So when we talk about strategy and authority, which are big parts of your human design chart, we oftentimes talk about that kind of as a permanent lifestyle. And I'm going to say human design, strategy, and authority was never designed to be a permanent lifestyle. You were never designed to follow strategy and authority for the rest of your life. It was a healing prescription. And the purpose of that healing prescription was to get you to stop all the things that you're doing right now to stop and to create space in your life to reconnect back with your body, because your body is a compass. In fact, when we look at physiological processes, your body reacts oftentimes to knowledge, wisdom, experiences, the environment faster than your brain, although your brain is part of your body. Literally, the body oftentimes reacts faster than the brain can process information on a cognitive level. Your body is an incredible tool. It is an incredible compass. But for most of us in the process of conditioning, for us to be able to get through our lives and experience, be able to fulfill the expectations of our family and expectations of society, we have to numb out the body. Think of it like this. Go back to when you were in kindergarten and you first started going to school, right? And you had to sit still in your chair and do all these things in your seat and start learning reading and math. And imagine that you're in kindergarten and it's a beautiful day outside. And you can see the playground out the window and your body is like, I need to move. My body is telling me that I got to get out there and integrate all this stuff that we've been doing today. I understand that there's numbers and letters, but until I move my body, I can't get all of this to make sense for me. It's too much. I need to go play, because that's what kids need to integrate. But your teacher said, nope, sit down, be quiet. You can't go outside. We've already had recess today. Thank you very much. You can go outside after school. Sit down, be quiet. The only way you could survive without going stark raving mad was to numb out your body. And I promise you, we all did it to a certain degree. We've all gotten very good at turning off these signals that our body is giving us about what do we need? What do we need to do? What do we need to feel safe? What do we need to feel to be fulfilled? And when we do that, when we numb out the body, we numb out our compass. And so part of human design in the very beginning is really about getting reconnected back to the body so that you have a compass that helps you engineer your way, maneuver and navigate your way through the world without defaulting to your conditioned thinking. So you're not supposed to follow strategy and authority forever. You're supposed to heal your connection to your body so that you start remembering, oh, this is what something that feels right for me feels like in my body. This is what yes feels like in my body. This is what no feels like in my body. And build a self-trusting relationship back with your body so that you can fulfill the rest of your story. Every main character in their story has a sacred flaw or two, right? We have things we have to be challenged by in order to grow and to thrive. And so the centers and the gates represent the sacred flaw that our character holds, things that our character needs to work with in order to mature and to thrive. So when we look at the chart this way, and this is when I teach people how to read human design charts in our professional school, this is the format that we use. You learn how to use the chart as a tool to help somebody consciously and intentionally rewrite their narrative. Now, if we go back to this, you'll see at the bottom of this pyramid is the 9 resiliency keys. The goal for your main character is to become resilient. And when we talk about resiliency in quantum human design, we're talking about basically taking every archetype in the chart. So when I came up with the 9 resiliency keys in 2013, and basically what I did was I took everything in the chart and blended it up with developmental psychology. And basically what I came out with at the end was that there are 9 base archetypes that need to be functioning at the highest level. 9 base archetypes that need to be functioning at the highest level in order for you to be resilient, in order for you to fulfill the full potential of your chart. So these 9 resiliency keys, if we go back to the storytelling path, that's the goal. That's the base of the pyramid of the chart, right? The goal is to get your main character through all the challenges of the sacred flaw and to emerge resilient, right? So we're going to put in chat We're going to put in chat a link to a handout. Now, Hannah, is this one PDF fillable? I think it is, right?
No. But you can print it out and color on it, or you can even use, yeah, it's it still works.
Okay. So we're going to give you a chart of the 9 resiliency keys, and I'm going to describe them for you. And what I want you to do is you open up this handout, and you can do this on your own later. But while I'm going through this, if you don't want to do the handout, you can just do this on a piece of paper. And if you're going to do it on a piece of paper, I want you to think about measuring resiliency on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 means I don't have this going on in my life at all. Like this is a huge issue for me. I have 0 of this resiliency key. 10 is I got this. It's awesome. I'm totally cool with this. I got it, right? So 0 is really low on the resiliency key scale. 10 is like really high on the resiliency key scale. I want you to really listen. I'm going to go through these resiliency keys pretty quickly. And when we're done with the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you where these resiliency keys live in the body. So we're going to go back to the body chart. We're going to look at your resiliency keys, measurement, your resiliency score, and then we're going to look at what's going on in your body and how does that relate to resiliency. So as I go through these pretty quickly, I want you just to, as I go through them, give yourself a number. Don't think too hard. Don't think too long. I want you to make this almost a visceral response with a number. Okay, so the first resiliency key is lovability. Do you believe that you can be loved and accepted for who you are? 0 means, nope, not at all. 10 means, yep, I do, absolutely, 100%. And as I said, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because I don't want you to overthink them. Empowerment is the next resiliency key. Do you feel like you have control or at least influence over your life? Courage is the next one. Does fear keep you stuck? Does fear keep you from fulfilling your joy? Decisiveness is the next one. Do you know how to choose what's right for you? Do you know how to choose what's right for you? Emotional wisdom is the next one. Does emotional energy keep you from acting deliberately? If you have a defined emotional solar plexus, does emotional energy keep you from acting deliberately? If you have an open emotional solar plexus, that's the triangle, the big triangle on the right-hand side of the chart. If it's white, do you compromise what you want to keep other people happy? The next resiliency key is self-trust. Do you trust yourself? The next resiliency key is vitality. Are you fully expressing your life force and your energy? The next one is authenticity. Do you feel free or safe or valued to be who you really are? And last but definitely not least, self-worth. Do you know how valuable you are? Do you know how precious you are? And take a minute and look at your score. The purpose of this exercise was not to make you feel crappy about yourself or your life. The purpose of this exercise was to give you self-awareness so that you can start looking at where do I possibly need to start shifting and changing the story I'm telling so that I can become more resilient. If we were going to organize these resiliency keys, oh my God, I wish it worked this way, but if we were going to organize them kind of logically, we'd see that the base of the pyramid of resiliency is lovability and self-worth. And we talked about that a little bit at the beginning. In between, we've got authenticity, self-trust, emotional wisdom, and empowerment, courage and decisiveness. And at the peak, we have vitality. The opposite of vitality is burnout. And I find in my practice that when people show up and they're burned out, it's because there's a resiliency issue, and it usually has nothing to do with work and everything to do with There's something going on with the means, and the end isn't sustainable. In real life, they're kind of entangled like this. Usually, when we start working on one resiliency key, we see that it's integrated and connected to other resiliency keys. But once we start pulling the thread, we start to unravel all of it, and we start to be able to get ourselves back to a 10 through intentional storytelling. All right, so we've talked about dinner, we've talked about your body. Hang on, because when I'm done sharing this next opportunity with you, I'm going to show you the relationship between the 9 resiliency keys and your body and what you drew on your body. But if you've been sitting here thinking, okay, I really would love to work on my story, I would like to tell a story that is in integrity with who I am so that I can activate that vitality. And that vitality is about the full flow of financial support, emotional support, relationship support, career fulfillment, creative fulfillment, lifestyle fulfillment, health and wellness within the body, and even a deeper spiritual connection. That if you are ready for that and you want to really dig in here and begin a systematic exploration of your story and using an evidence supported process, take back control over that story, rewrite it the way you choose, the way you decide, so that you can create the life that you want, I want to invite you to join me in my upcoming Quantum Wellness program. So this is a program that's going to give you a guided pathway to reclaim your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's going to be a deep dive into your blueprint, your human design chart. You're going to work with this process to break subconscious patterns that have shaped your health, your finances, and your relationships, and rewrite your life's narrative so that you can consciously and courageously pick the narrative of your own choosing. Be who you decide you're going to be. This is a program. It's 7 live lessons with me. So no pre-recorded videos that you have to sit and watch by yourself. It's a live lesson in community with me. The call schedule is here on the slide. If you are interested, please take a screenshot of this, but we'll post this for you as well. The calls begin at 1 p.m. Central Time. They are about 90 minutes because we will be doing active exercises and doing community within the calls. There will be replays for the calls as well. So if you can't make a call live or you can't make the calls live, there are replays as well. And we have a robust community that we have built around this program specifically for the students of this program in our private circle. This course is for you if you are craving clarity, healing, and alignment across your body, mind, and spirit. This is for you if you feel stuck in old patterns and you don't know why you're stuck and you're ready for something different. If you've been following your human design, but you want to know really how to go deep into the deconditioning process and you want to actually live your human design and create sustainable wellness and not just learn about yourself with your brain, but actually embody wellness, then this program is going to teach you how to actually move your understanding of your design into your life. And of course, if you're ready to take action and commit to a new story, but you also want to do it in a supportive community, again, with an evidence supported path, this is a program for you. We have a special. The program, the cost of the program itself is $497. We are giving you 50% off the tuition. So if you use the coupon code, we'll put all of this in the chat for you. The tuition is $248, and we do have a payment plan available for you. This coupon expires on October the 17th at midnight. Again, we'll put all the links in the chat. The first 5 people who enroll in Quantum Wellness are going to receive a signed copy of my brand new book, Quantum Wellness. You'll also, if you have not gotten your copy of this book yet, or are kind of feel like it's beyond your means, I want to let you know that you can get a free digital version of this book if you go to the following link. It's quantumhumandesign.com/siren. Again, we'll put this in the chat. So if you would like to get a free digital copy of this book and you haven't had a chance to read it, we've got 100 free copies available. So get in there and grab your free digital copy if you have not been able to get this book just yet. I want you to be able to get your hands on this book. I also would love to invite you, if you have not done so, if you did order the book and you loved it, or if you ordered the book and you hated it, doesn't matter. If you would leave me a review on Amazon, I would be most grateful. The second bonus is the first 25 people who enroll in Quantum Wellness are going to receive a code to get a personalized Quantum Wellness report for just $1. We wanted to give it to you for $0, but the computer system didn't work that way. So we have to charge you $1 for this $46 report, or actually it's a $47 report. You get a $46 savings. So the first 25 people are going to get a Quantum Wellness report for $1 as well. So, all right, get your body out. Get your body picture out. You already have your body out, hopefully, but get your body picture out. Let's go through your body. I want you to look at where you put marks on your body, or what you were when you looked at what's hurting you and what's disrupting the wellness in your body. I'm going to go through the 9 centers, and I'm going to tell you which resiliency keys are associated with those centers and some of the body parts associated with those centers, so that you can start looking and see, is there an archetypal relationship? Is there a story happening here related to resiliency, the center, and the part of your body that maybe isn't functioning optimally? So the head center is associated with the pineal gland, the brain, the hypothalamus, the eyes, and the optic nerves. It's associated with other things too, but this is just a broad overview. It is also associated with the resiliency keys of decisiveness and self-trust. The ajna center, and by the way, it doesn't matter if this is open or defined. I'm talking about optimizing how this center works. So you want it to operate in the way that is based on your unique configuration. If it's defined, you want it to operate optimally as a defined center. If it's open, you want it to operate optimally as an open center. For health and wellness purposes, it doesn't matter if it's open or defined. What matters is, are you using it optimally or not? So the ajna center is associated with the head, the eyes, the brain, the sinuses, the pineal gland, the mouth, the teeth, and the tongue. It is also associated with the resiliency keys of decisiveness and self-trust. The throat center is associated with, obviously, the throat, tonsils, the esophagus, the neck, thyroid, parathyroid, and the tongue, the back of the tongue, more than the front of the tongue. It is associated also with the resiliency keys of authenticity and vitality. The G center. By the way, if I'm going through these too fast, we will post the replay tonight, and you are welcome to take a screenshot of these slides. The G center is associated physically with the blood and the liver. So earlier somebody was saying it's in all of my cells. I would say most likely, let's look at the G center for a correlation here. G center or spleen is the other center I would look at. So physically associated with blood or liver. Resiliency keys associated with the G center are lovability, decisiveness, courage, and authenticity. The will center is associated physically with the heart and the cardiovascular system, the immune system and the thymus, particularly the thymus, the stomach, and the gallbladder. It is associated with the resiliency keys of self-worth, vitality, and empowerment. The emotional solar plexus physically is associated with the kidneys, the pancreas, digestion and assimilation, hydration, the adrenals, the vagus nerve, and the large and small intestine. It is associated with the resiliency keys of courage, emotional wisdom, decisiveness, and empowerment. The sacral center, or the evolution center in quantum human design, is associated with the ovaries, the testes, and all the reproductive organs. It is associated with the resiliency keys of decisiveness, vitality, courage, and empowerment. The spleen center, or the self-actualization center, is associated physically with the lymphatic system, the spleen, and the B cells. when we talk about resiliency keys, the spleen center is associated with self-trust and courage. The root center is the center physically associated with the adrenal glands, the skeleton system, especially the feet and the legs. Somebody was saying that their feet hurt today, and muscles, so support system. The resiliency keys associated with the root center include vitality and empowerment. I do want to thank you so much for joining me here today. I am excited to hear your insights, to welcome you into the Quantum Wellness Program. I'm excited to go back. I'll go back and read the chat. I can't read the chat while I'm teaching, but I always go back and read it afterwards. So I am very excited to read your insights that you had. I hope you learned something. I hope you are walking away with the seeds of remembering that you deserve a beautiful dinner and a beautiful life, and you deserve to receive all the goodness that is coming at you. So please, please start setting the stage for you to receive all the goodness that you deserve. So take good care of yourselves. I want to say always thank you, Team Quantum, Teresa, Hannah, Tara, for being here, for all of you getting, they are always here for you. If you have any questions, please email us, support@quantumhumandesign.com. Again, join us on Facebook, join us on Circle, take good care of yourselves, and let yourselves receive everything you deserve. And stretch it just a little bit more. Let yourself have just a little bit more. Okay. Take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.